And then on the other hand, it gets kind of tedious for people that understand these nuances to get the other person up to speed, just so they understand that Outlook Express has its dangers, and the guy is justified in saying that it's not the best choice. And so there's crosstalk. So, I mean, all I could do is, just from my point of view, is just suggest, we'll take the time to explain why you think something's crap before you just say it, even though everybody in your audience probably believes that. There may be someone coming by you've never heard of before that may get a silent impression in the background about Linux or Linux users that the end result is yeah, now you have someone that before didn't know about Linux, now doesn't like it. You don't want that either. And so what has become of a community project of somewhat benevolence is now being advertised as something bad. I mean, I'm not reflecting on this guy. I think this guy still wants to try. Even if he didn't want to try, it's his business, not mine. So, you know, don't apply what I'm saying too much to what this guy is saying. Other than I'm just giving him feedback to try to give a broader perspective, because I'm not him, right? He's not me, so he experienced the world his way, I experienced the world my way, and sum's greater than the parts, I think. Number 2, Fedora represents division and no unity with Linux standards. I'm not well-versed enough to authoritatively speak on that. I would say that it depends on what he means by what he's saying there, which we get back to remember the tediousness I was just talking about? Well, now I have a tedious question for him, or I could guess. And I think, or I could just cover all the different chances, right? That doesn't need to be tedious, but a newbie from Windows isn't going to just know about all these other email programs. So he's saying that Fedora represents division. Okay, I think I know what he's talking about. If you asked anybody that worked at Fedora, they would probably say that we're doing the right thing. Everybody else should conform with us. What I think he's saying is that whatever changes that have impacted his computing experience to make it less user-friendly for him, he sees a lot of those problems rooting from either the attitude or development choices that Fedora has made, and I'd say I generally agree. It is, and I generally agree what he said in his video, it's more or less tuned for servers and not for users of the desktop, and I went into all this about how I think that proprietary drivers should be in there until such time that the open source drivers do the same thing for the user, and so we don't get these black screens on the installs, etc., etc. And that's how Fedora is, to me, is how I interpret it. And so what I think he's saying is that Fedora is contributing to the division we're seeing here, people calling for more user friendliness because they're too idealistic, and so those drivers and other things aren't landing into the software, and the end result is that people are getting angry and getting turned away, and he's asking for these things to go in there, and they're refusing based on philosophical grounds. Again, this is another political reason. You know, I say leave the politics at home. I mean, hell, Linus even does that. Linus will even say he doesn't hate the free software. You know, read some of the kernel archives. He doesn't hate the Free Software Foundation, but I think he's a little more grounded in realism. Okay. Sound problems in Linux and poor support. Okay. Now I have to say, I don't know. I'd also, what jumps out of the first thought jumps in my mind is it's distribution choice that's affecting that for you. There's also a little bit of it's how to explain this. Well, the steps. Okay, I'll start with the steps. The steps to get audio to work includes setting up your ALSA mixer at first. And there are a lot of little different steps where the chain can get broken and the end result can go wrong. Take, for example, my before I get into that, I'm going to end up saying that I disagree and that sound support has been great for a long time. But only after I understood all this stuff. So, so I'm going to say there's a problem with the way the sound is set up to get the good sound that's there already out to the users. And I've complained about this already. Just take, for example, my GUVC viewer. In audio, I have to go in there. The default is DevDSP. If you look for help on the internet, a lot of the time you're going to find the answer that's stated, even up to recent times, is that you pick DevDSP to get to work, or Dev Audio. Well, not in the releases of Ubuntu that I have here in the recent kernel releases. Now it's HW:1,0, and it may have something to do with Pulse Audio being thrown in the mix there. And Pulse Audio seems like it does a lot of good things. I saw a video of the guy that worked on it. He seemed like a very kind, enthusiastic, talented programmer. So I'm not faulting the man by any means. The desktop just kind of has to catch up to that, and the users have to catch up to that. And so over time, when these little things change, if the end user doesn't understand what's going on deeper underneath the layers there, they just think audio's been broken for years. You know, on the last time the guy did an install, maybe he tried Fedora, and Fedora was going to use the open source audio system. Well, that's broken. And when he finally switched to Ubuntu, he tried to use the GUVC viewer, and he went into audio there, and maybe he had a USB camera and didn't know to pick HW:1,0 instead of DevDSP. How's he going to know that? He's not going to know that. There's just one guy with a blog about it, and I was guessing that might have been the answer, and when I found it was the answer, I made a video about it right away. But, and you have to know to go in the ALSA mixer, and the best way to do that, you got to open up a terminal, and you got to type ALSA mixer, and use the DOS-looking program then you have to know there's an F5 for capture, and you have to turn the volume up for your capture, otherwise it's not going to work. Graphics performance and port support, I don't know. I've complained about the changes to X, or the lack of inclusion of drivers, whereas on computer down here always worked when X386 was running in the distribution I was installing. Then there was a little break in the action where it wouldn't work when Xorg took over, and then after that maybe it will work. I don't know, I haven't tried SUSE 11.3 on that one down there. I haven't. Maybe I should, but there was there was the aftershocks of the earthquake there. Let me stop.